And so it's about really coming together, strategizing, figuring out like what can we do, what can we put out, and how can we make sure that when people see Gypsy Soul, they see nothing but the emblem. If they hear Ear Candy, they immediately associate it with us, associate it with a good time, associated with positive artists, and there's no room for anything else to come in between it. And like you and I had the conversation, because when I would type eXcapethematriX, I noticed that you all had the big X's. So when I typed it, I would put the big X's on it. So because people need to realize, like, if you're associated, if you're doing things, like, you see it and you recognize, like, this is what I'm taking part in, this is what I'm going to, this is what I'm reading about. Not like, is it this person, is it that person? You just got to make sure you're putting out quality products every single time. And if your emblem's on it, if your name's behind it, you know it stands for something, people are going to get what they're expecting to receive.
And even with the website, it's very strategic. Like if you look at the photos, like it feels like an experience, like you went somewhere. But these are the snapshots of different memories that you've created. And we want Gypsy Soul, we want all of our products and our services to be memorable. We want to connect to the audience. Basically, our mission is to connect the audience and the artists together on an intimate level, so that when you have that link to someone, you want to support them. You want them to win. So you're going to buy that CD, you're going to tell your mom about it, you're going to tell your boyfriend about it, you're going to tell everybody in the world about them, because you really want them to win. Not just because they sing well, but because they have a nice attitude. Because you can touch them and talk to them, and they're cool. And so we want that home feel. We want that we're cool and we all in this together type mentality reflected in what we do, even with our flyers. I mean, there's no naked women on there. It's very classy, but it's also very memorable. So we just want things that people can remember, but also something that invokes a warm feeling, a good feeling, something that is connected to people around you.
It's funny that you would say that as far as your flyers, because what I never realized that people paid such close attention to the flyers that we have for the company. But I've had several people tell me that they associate certain colors with storytellers. Like we were talking about the online store that we just started, and someone had actually mentioned, when I think of the shirts that are for storytellers, I would assume that they were going to be brown with some orange in them. And I'm like, why? And it was because when I look at the flyer, that's what sticks out to me is these are your colors. And I'm like, dude, that's what I'm talking about. Like things get like the X's. For me, for Luminous, for Suscept, the three of us, whenever we type up anything having to do with eXcapethematriX, I mean, not just eXcapethematriX, we have regular conversation. And sometimes I have to watch, like, okay, I don't want to confuse people, but in regular conversation, all of our X's are capitalized, always. And it's now caught on to our readers. And I'll have people send stuff to my inbox where they'll be talking about this or that, and all of the X's are capitalized. And I'm like, it's amazing.
It's how things get like you say, I think people, they don't give enough credit to their consumers or their fan base to kind of really pick up on those small, minor details. Because even when we were getting the blog design, like we could change from an array of different color palettes, but we wanted to stick to what we've been putting on the flyers, what you saw on the website, and everything kind of like coexist in a way that is consistent. And if you come across it, you automatically acknowledge it and recognize it's like this has to be with Gypsy Soul. But that always comes back to branding, that someone can just take a glance at something and they know who it belongs to or who's putting it out.
Okay. These last two questions are going to deal with the first year and then the anniversary. So the first question, Will and then Kayenecha. I don't want to say most memorable, because of course that can make it a little difficult about which are most memorable. You make them name it all 5 different things. So I'm going to ask for you, what do you think is the worst experience that you had so far in the first year? And what is your wake-up moment of the first year?
I would probably say it happened all in the same night. It was one of the Ear Candies. I'm not a big fan of dealing with all artists because everyone has a certain arrogance or self-importance, and I feel like you have to have that if you're an artist, because like if you don't take yourself seriously, than no one else will, but I'm a big person about being on time, and if I'm going to do something, doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a show where the time kept lagging and pushing on. Like, I knew that the artists were in the immediate area, but they were not at the venue ready to perform. And, you know, Kay's getting kind of anxious because the crowd's there. You know, it was a packed house. There were literally people standing. There was no more standing remotely. And I'm kind of like, this is why I don't deal with a lot of artists. Because I'm like, I pulled up and I was parked directly next to them and I saw them get out the car, so I know that they're here, but they're not here right now.
Right.
You know, but it was one of those things like you just gotta learn, like when you're putting together events and things are going, like everything won't run as smoothly, but you gotta just keep a level head and know that it'll work itself out. But in that same night, it was a packed house.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw friends and people there that I didn't personally invite, or I know I didn't have contact with, but somehow the word got out that this is what was going on. And that's when it's okay, like, I know it's going to be so much bigger than what it is. Like, the potential is clearly there, but things have to be executed a certain way to make sure that we stay with a consistent product. Because I feel like friends of mine that I didn't even know listened to a certain type of music or didn't follow, or wasn't aware they follow certain artists, like they were in the house. And I'm like, I didn't invite you. It's like, hey, what are you doing here? It's like, hey, what are you doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, well, I came and I got a flyer or a friend invited me. And I'm like, they're like, I didn't know you were into this. I'm like, I didn't know you were into this. You know, that type of deal. But it kind of like showed me like there's a hunger for what we're doing here in Baltimore. And there's a need for it because there's a void that no one else took the opportunity to fill. So we stepped up and we did it. So for me, that was probably the worst experience. I won't say the worst experience. It was an eye-opening experience, and it kind of solidified my attitude. Like, this is why Kayenecha works with the artists, and I handle a lot of the other aspects. But it also showed me that we have the potential to really bring something completely different, diverse, and new to the city. And like, provide on a consistent basis and people kind of recognize it and thoroughly enjoy it, but also keep coming back for more.
I think one of my worst moments, especially as an idealist and an optimist, it was realizing that even with business, sometimes you can outgrow partnerships and relationships, and just with social media nowadays, that is more than business, but a whole lot of personal. And to be able to see business people put certain stuff out there, or to act a certain type of way, kind of gets disheartening because, again, you have this optimism of how things should be, and then you realize that it's not all the time. But the wake-up moment, I would say, wake-up moment. I would say the first night. The first night that we had Air Candy, there weren't a lot of people, but the moment was that it was okay.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. It was okay. And that every night is not going to be a full house, and every artist is not going to be as fully appreciated by the public as they are by me.
But she really appreciated y'all.
Mm-hmm.
She did. That was a good look.
But the work is still needed regardless. So I think that night was wake up where I thought it was going to be just this wonderful, fantastic thing, and it wasn't that fantastic in the sense of the numbers, but it was still fantastic. And that was the wake up moment, that it doesn't have to be 5 million people knocking on the door. As long as you connect, right, the quality, and you have one good connection, if one person is there and gets something from it,